much checking, everybody. Welcome to, well, not the final. We hope it's not the final PrizePicks prediction show of the season. It's Texas versus Washington, and it's just going to be me and Jason talking PrizePicks. We'll talk a little bit about Texas and Washington, although I would say we just talked with Jason on House Divided here on Orange Bloods Live like less than an hour ago or 2 hours ago. So like a lot of Texas-Washington conversation, obviously, in that show. If you missed it, by all means, check it out. Welcome to everybody jumping in to the Specs chat. If you got any super chats or comments for Jason and I, we might take a couple of those as well, but we're certainly here to talk about PrizePicks, about Texas and Washington, and kind of where we're leaning, both with our predictions, obviously, but also with as it relates to PrizePicks in the last game on the schedule until the next one, right? Until Texas in the championship game. Just as a reminder, we love PrizePicks. We love doing the videos. I will love when we get our next deposit, Jason. It's late in the month. So like, come on, PrizePicks. Gimme.
Hey, Catch, I'm going to tell you something real quick. I'm going to interrupt you. My daughter is more obsessed with PrizePicks than we are, and I'm going to explain why. So my daughter turned 18 on November 2nd. All she wants for her birthday the last 2 years is a trip to go see the Yankees in New York. I've brainwashed her to be a Yankees fan. Well, for her birthday, I surprised her. We're going next April 6th, on my birthday, actually. We're going to fly to New York. It's on a Saturday. We're going to get there in the morning, go see a game, probably 2, and fly back home. I have told her, hey, whatever money I have in my PrizePicks account, that might be $100, it might be $2,000. That's our New York trip money. So every day she's like, "How'd PrizePicks do?"
That's funny.
So she's more or as invested as I am in my PrizePicks.
Now I'm gonna feel bad for her every time I hear your bad beat stories.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna know, okay, well, she's eating at McDonald's while they're in New York.
Yeah. Might not be too far off.
Okay, as a reminder, if you have never played PrizePicks, what's wrong with you? Go to PrizePicks, download the app, do whatever you need to. Just know that if you enter the promo code Orange Bloods, they're basically going to give you $100. I mean, there's no reason to sign up not to put 100 in. And if you put 100 in, they'll give you $100 in money to make picks with. And then once you win money from there, it moves over into your account. Trust me, we're very familiar with like the matches and the deposits that they make. It spends the same, folks. So get that $100. Just let them give it to you. Ultimately, when it's all said and done. Plus, when you have money in that they will take the money that they give you first. So like if you put 100 in and then they 100% match the deposit, and you're like, I'm going to put a $20 entry in. It may be that I know I put 100 in early on, Jason, and then I never had to put any other money in, right? Because I got into the positive, and then it was just like the money that I won transitioned over, and then I just had money that I was working with. So trust us, guys. That's the way to do it.
Another thing, guys, we were laying on thick because we love PrizePicks, but every Tuesday is Taco Tuesday. They'll do, usually it's 3 plays where it's discounted plays. Like Tuesday they did, I don't remember, it was a couple basketball plays where the guy's supposed to get like 25 points. They'll reduce it to 20. They reduced Amari Cooper, who plays tonight, to whatever it was, from 75 to like 45 yards or something. So you get discounted plays on Tuesday. Friday
this week's one of them is Amari Cooper in tonight's
yeah.
game. They dropped it down to 37.5.
37. So, yeah, I mean, that's almost counting your money there a little bit if you hit that one and then one other play. And then Friday is Flex Friday where you get a free entry. So, dude, like this week on Taco Tuesday, I hit all 3 Taco Tuesdays, assuming if Amari Cooper goes over 37 tonight, knock on wood, I hit all 3 of my Taco Tuesdays. So, yeah, I'm really loving PrizePicks this week.
Yeah, once you're in, like especially the Flex Fridays.
Yes, that's a
52 weeks of those, and you can't help but win on accident. You should win a couple.
Yeah.
So just something to think about. Jason, let's just jump into the PrizePicks today because I think there's a conversation that comes out of discussing the Prize Picks. There's every kind of way to discuss this game, and you can do it all through the lens of the Prize Picks. Let me count. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 different entries.
Oh my goodness.
Already waiting to be played involving various plays in this game. 9.
I've got 2, I think. You're way ahead of me on those entries for sure. You've only got 2. And that'll go up.
And my single favorite entry out of all of them, and we'll get to Quinn in a second and how his number was one thing and then it moved down and now it's moved back up slightly. My favorite, I've paired it. Let me tell you how much I love this one. I paired it with the Taco Tuesday from last week. So I took CeeDee Lamb and the more, and I paired it with Adonai Mitchell at 60.5 receiving yards.
And I think CeeDee hit that in the first quarter, if I remember correctly, didn't he?
He did, and I hope Adonai is able to do the same thing. Yeah. I'm a big Adonai Mitchell guy in this game. I think it's going to be one of the last 1 or 2 games he plays in his college career before he goes pro. I think he's a big game player. He scored a touchdown in every playoff game. And oh, by the way, Washington does struggle, not from an efficiency standpoint in pass defense, but they will give up volume. They will give up yardage. And I think Adonai Mitchell at 60.5 for me, it's been blinking from the moment it came out.
And I'm with you. I only have 2 plays, but Adonai Mitchell is in both of my plays, and I'm going to explain why. Yes, I think that's for the reasons you said. He's a big game player, one of his last, hopefully, 2 games, right? Well, they also have a really good quarterback in Muhammad who may shadow Worthy a lot of the time. And if they do that, boy, Adonai is going to eat you up. So even if they try it for a series or 2 and then they learn, hey, we can't necessarily do that all game. So I'm with you. I like the Worthy more too, if I'm being honest. I got Worthy at 72.5, but out of those 2, I really like the Adonai Mitchell 62.5 more yards. And they've got for both of those wide receivers that I just mentioned, you can also put an entry. They just put these up this week, whether or not they're going to get it's 0.5. So you're basically guessing whether or not they're going to score a touchdown or not. Okay. So Adonai Mitchell, dude, all that dude does, especially in big games, is score touchdowns, right? This is a game where a lot of touchdowns are going to be needed. I like that 0.5 rushing or receiving TDs for Adonai Mitchell as well. I think both of those are really good plays.
I agree. I like the yardage one a little more, but if you wanted to diversify it a little bit, you could certainly go there. I think Xavier Worthy last year, he could have had a 200-yard performance in this game, and just I don't have to revisit what happened in that game with the drops. They happened. It led to the offseason that happened. I think Xavier Worthy is going to be a very motivated player for a lot of the same reasons that, quite frankly, Adonai Mitchell will probably be. This is a showcase game right before, we think that those guys are going to go into the NFL. So I don't think you can hit those 2 guys enough. And I think I haven't gotten crazy with it, but I do have the more on Quinn Ewers and passing yardage. It started at 290.5. I jumped on that. It fell down. I think as of yesterday, we were talking about this, Jason, that it was at like 283.5. Now it's back up to 288.5. So it leads me to believe there wasn't a lot of action on Ewers. Or what little there was, most of it was on the under. They dropped it down. There must have been a pile of plays once they dropped it down 7 yards, because now it's back up to 288.5. I still like, man, it's in the passing game for both of these 2 teams. It's hard for me to find a lot of lesses, and maybe that's dangerous, but I like Jalen McMillan on the more. I think my favorite Washington play is Jalen Polk at 53.5. He's going to get advantageous matchups with Texas feeling like, and rightfully so, that they've got to focus on both McMillan and Adunze, who's at 99.5. I've stayed away from him, but Jason will tell you, even at 99.5, he's almost been automatic all season long. I like a lot of Moores in this game, except when I think we start talking about the one less for me on the Michigan side is I've got Dylan Johnson less than 73.5 rushing yards, but almost on everything else, I kind of like the Moores.
I'm with you. You know, I've ridden Penix a little bit too, but I've ridden Roma Dunze all year, and he's hit way more often than he hasn't on the Moores. And I'm with you on all of it. I would take the Dylan Johnson less than 73.5 rushing yards, but you know, and we'll get into the game a little bit here in a minute, probably a bit more. But I've got all my matchups written, and I'm waiting till Friday morning to post them just because the game's not till Monday. I tell you what, Johnson has run the ball really effectively. He's an 1,100-yard rusher in the season, and his last 5 games, he's almost close to 700 yards. So people just think of Washington as this high-flying team that's going to throw it around, and that's true. They're going to put up big numbers in the passing game, but late in the season, those numbers have come down a little bit, and they've been running the ball a lot more. But, you know, I have faith in that Texas run defense, so I would take the less for Dylan Johnson. And I also think, Catch, both of these coaches have to know it might take 40 to win this game. You know, It just might take 40. So I think they're both going to be ultra aggressive. They're not going to abandon the run. Okay, neither team is going to do that. That's not Sark style. That's not what Washington does either. But I also think they know they're going to have to be aggressive in the passing game for 4 full quarters. If one team goes up by 14, 17, 20, they're not taking their foot off the gas. I don't see it in this game. So I think they're going to continue to throw the ball. So I would probably lean towards the less on Dylan Johnson as well. But that's a little bit tricky. I mean, he's like, if you look at his last 5 games, he's gone over that every one of his last 5 games, including a 256-yard game against USC, 104 against a very good Utah defense, 89 against Oregon State, 82 Washington State, 152 against Oregon that would have been the Big 12 or the Pac-12 championship. So he's been on a bit of a heater, man. So keeping him under 73.5, Texas can do it just because their run defense is really good. But I would probably stay away from that one personally.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is there one out of all of the prize picks that have been posted that you're more nervous on than any other? And I do think I play some Dylan Johnson unders. And I think as we've gotten closer to the game, I've thought, God, 73.5, that's not a huge number. So I wonder if I've overreacted to what they did with Ollie Gordon that convinced me, of course they're going to stop him. Look what just happened in the last game. I do think Texas wins that battle. I don't think he's going to go crazy, but I do have a slight buyer's remorse going into some of the wagers, the entries that I made, knowing that I feel really certain about some, less certain now about others. And ironically, I love all the Moores, and the one less I have, I'm like, maybe I should have just stayed away from that. Anything else from this particular matchup that you look at and you think is either, that you just have an opinion on?
I like the Polk one. I've noticed that Michael Penix, his number keeps creeping up just a little bit, but yeah, he's up to 313.5. He was at like 310. We're only talking 3 yards, but when you're at 310 and they're still raising you, that tells you something. And I'm telling you, hey, we're only talking 3 yards for people who are new to PrizePicks. These guys are amazingly accurate with these numbers, man. Like sometimes a half a yard can be the difference. So if you're talking a 3-yard swing, I just think it's interesting that the bar was set so high for him at Penix at 310, and it's gone up. I tell you one that I like that we haven't talked about much, just because I think it's going to be such a shootout. I like Bert Auburn over 7.5 kicking points. I like Texas to score 4 to 5 touchdowns in this game. So if they score 5, he's only needing 1 field goal. If they score 4, he would need 2 field goals, which I think is, I think that's probably possible, if not likely.
a lot of us are still hurting from the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, no, I'm one. Yeah, I am too. So, but I do like the Bird Auburn more than 7.5. The one that I just don't have a great feel for is, do they don't have Baxter's rushing yards up?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, they got Baxter at 16.5 receiving yards, but we don't have rushing yards. So I don't know. I don't have a great feel for that run game just because Jaden Blue, and the other backs that can factor into that. I don't know. I don't think I would probably take any of the Texas rushing totals because that feels like hey, we're going to ride the hot hand type of situation to some degree. And that's pretty unpredictable. And I think we know the receivers are going to get targets and probably get their yards. The rushing totals for Texas, with kind of this 2, 3, maybe even 4-headed monster to some degree, I don't know. That scares me a little bit, the rushing totals.
Yeah, the only
people keep asking about Whittington in the chat. His numbers are not up yet, if they'll be at all. There are no Jordan Whittington entries just yet. And
the only touchdown, I saw this being asked as well. They've got Michael Penix 2.5 pass rush receiving touchdowns, and then with Texas, they've got the 2 receivers at 0.5. Jason mentioned that earlier with Mitchell and Worthy. And then you've got Ewers at 2.5 pass rush receiving. I kind of like the Ewers more on 2.5, but of the 2, I think I like the yardage play more than the touchdown play. All right, Jason, it's time. It's time for score predictions for the game. Normally we do this beforehand, and then we go to the prize picks later, kind of saving the predictions for the end. What do you got from a prediction standpoint? And I give you the right to reserve, we haven't turned in our official predictions to you that we'll post on Orange Bloods. It's not inconceivable that we also could change as we get closer to the game by a couple of points here or there. But where's your head at right now?
Yeah, I mean, as long as we continue to hear that Xavier Worthy's healthy, things of that nature, I don't see me changing my pick. This is going to be a little long-winded before I get to my actual score prediction, so I'll try to summarize it as best I can. Sorry about that. Initially when the matchup was announced, my initial gut reaction was, okay, Washington, that's not a great matchup for Texas. I like Washington. Then I kind of started thinking, okay, the Texas D, I don't know, man, maybe I'm favoring Texas. Then I went back to Washington. I did the matchups last night. I said I'm going to post them on Orange Bloods tomorrow morning, just to kind of carry us into the weekend. And I mean, I don't have a lot of Washington edges in this game. I think some areas are really close, okay? But I've got Texas controlling the matchups. Okay, Washington, and I'll just give you a quick run through. Washington pass offense versus Texas pass defense. I've got Washington with a sizable advantage there. 4 stars, which is huge, okay? Now, I know Texas has played better of late, but I don't care, dude. Washington's pass offense is really good. The only way I think that changes is if Texas can get to Penix and just get him off rhythm early. Maybe rattle him a little bit, where he's not able – he knows he can't just sit there and survey the field and go through his progression. So I think Texas is a chance, but going into the game, I give Washington the edge there. Washington run offense versus Texas run defense. Again, I think this is a Washington run offense that's underrated. People look at the overall stats and say, oh, Washington ranks 98th in the country as a team in rush offense. Well, they've still got one really good runner. That's a bit misleading. He's really come on late. But Texas's run defense has been so good. I've got Texas the edge there. This, to me, is the biggest one. You got Washington offensive line versus Texas's defensive line. Maybe the 2 most important units other than the quarterback position in this game. Washington has the Moore Award for the country's best line. Texas has arguably the country's 2 best interior defensive linemen. How does it match up? I've got Texas with a slight advantage there, Catch. I've got Texas with a pretty decent advantage in the pass offense over Washington's pass defense. Washington's run defense is not bad, guys. They're 38th nationally in terms of stats. They've got pretty good players, really active linebackers. One of their linebackers is one of the highest graded linebackers. I'm not even going to try to say his name, but on Pro Football Focus, he is one of the highest graded linebackers in the country. They've got good players that can play against the run. but I gave Texas the 1-star advantage here just because I think Texas will be able to run the ball. And this one I think I'm going to get some pushback on, but I got Texas's offensive line versus Washington's defensive line. It's not a great defensive line overall. It's not ultra productive. They don't put up big numbers, but Braylon Trice is really, really good off the edge. I'm counting him on the defensive line. According to Pro Football Focus, he leads the nation in quarterback hurries. I get it. Texas has really good tackles, but I did give Washington a 1-star edge there, a slight edge just based off Braylon Trice, who probably people say might be a first-round guy coming out next year. But then I got Texas with a pretty decent advantage in special teams. So add it all up, I've got Texas with a lot more advantages than Washington. Some of them are pretty close. I like Texas in this game, Catch. I wrote it down earlier. I've got Texas 34, Washington 33.
By the way, I thought earlier today, and I talked with Anwar about this. I said, hey, what are the headlines? I was in a few conference calls and things. I just wasn't able to keep up with the media stuff as it was happening with the Texas players and with Kwiatkowski. And he said, well, probably it won't be a headline, but the one storyline that I would say that I noticed was that T'Vondre Sweat, especially Sweat, but him and Murphy were constantly being asked about the Washington offensive line, and they just weren't having it. That the answer ended up, they kept saying things like, hey, we'll find out Monday, 7:00. We'll find out on Monday how good they are. That
same thing they said before Iowa State, and look how that turned out, right?
So in the last half hour, Michael Penix got on the platform to do an interview, and when asked about the Texas defensive line, he said, quote, they play good ball, but I wouldn't say we're playing the 49ers D-line or the Eagles D-line, so we'll be good, end quote. I feel like those dudes are offended about, like, they've worked it in their head that somehow they need a chip on, like, I think they have a chip on their shoulder. And I think weirdly, Michael Penix probably wasn't trying to, I think they will fabricate that and create an even, okay, we'll show them kind of attitude. I weirdly think, as far as trash talk goes, I think that although that's fairly harmless, because let's be fair,
they're backhanded compliment. Yeah,
they're not the Eagles or the 49ers. It's not to say that. But he said it, and I think they'll take that. I think they'll take some offense to that.
Well, their center is a freshman, and he's really good. He's a freshman All-American, Parker Brailsford. T'Vondre Sweat outweighs him by 75 pounds. So, I mean, that's going to be fascinating to me to watch that interior line matchup when Texas is on defense. But you're right; they'll use anything they can for locker room material. I mean, that's kind of a backhanded compliment a little bit, but they'll use that as motivation for sure.
Anyway, my prediction for the game, I think I'm gonna go. I was thinking 38-28, but not very 38-28. I mentioned this earlier, Jason, in the sense that it's a little bit like the Alabama game. So go into the fourth quarter, maybe Washington's even winning the game, but Texas gets ahead. And then late in the fourth quarter, protecting a lead, I can see them going down the field and kind of closing the show with a touchdown. I feel like I've said 38-28 multiple times. So I'm going to go 37-27. I'm going to take a couple of field goals mixed in, like you said.
Initially I was at like 35 something. I was like, no, man, there's got to be a field goal in there, right? So that's why I said, okay, Texas maybe gets 2 field goals. Yeah, so we'll see how
38-28 is what I've been thinking in my head, but I'm going to go 37-27. And who knows? I might actually go back to 38-28 before I do my score at Orange Bloods. Regardless, I think it's going to be something exactly like that. But we both like the Longhorns to win. I mentioned this earlier, and we'll wrap it up with this. I'm going to be on the lookout for every regional and local guy that covers all 4 teams in the playoffs. I wonder, is there a single Michigan Alabama, Texas, or Washington reporter that picks against the team that they've covered.
Yeah, because we said it earlier. I mean, really, all 4 teams are legitimate national title contenders. So, yeah, that'll be. Let me know what you find, because that'll be interesting.
I haven't seen it yet, but one of the things I've noticed is talking to a couple of Washington guys, watching the Michigan-Alabama just conversation from the side. Everybody seems to think that they're going to win, which is part of the reason why I think these games on Monday are going to be so much fun. All 4 teams think they're winning the national championship, and they'll go into these semifinal games thinking they're the better team, thinking that they've got the better personnel, thinking that they have the advantages, but it's not going to quite work out that way. So we'll see where this thing goes. Guys, do us a solid. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, do all of those things, and sign up for PrizePicks and get 100% deposit match up to $100. Just use that promo code OrangeBloods. It's not too late. You can still take advantage of it. You can still play all of the playoff games in the NFL all the way through, all the bowl games. Take advantage of Taco Tuesday. Play the Flex Friday. Certainly we do. We put our money where our mouth is. And on Flex Fridays, we actually don't have to put our money where our mouth is. We put their money where their mouth is. And it's a fantastic time. For myself and Jason Sukamel, and for Alex and Anwar, who aren't here, but believe me, they'll be playing PrizePicks. Well, hopefully we'll be doing this again in a week. In fact, we will. Let's just hope that Texas is playing in a